Hey, is that guy okay out there?
You know, that morning started like any other where you're getting up really early for baseball practice.
Got up, I probably scrolled through my phone briefly, nothing newsworthy had happened.
We were just getting ready to sort of load up Parker, our 1-year-old, into the car when I started getting a flurry of text messages.
My phone starts ringing and I'm like, it's my wife, and she's saying, there's reports that your boss has been shot.
Jennifer Scalise has a very specific ringtone because she doesn't call me very often. So I know if she's calling, it's probably pretty important.
I got a text from Paul Ryan's press secretary asking, she said, hey, is your boss okay?
She says, Brett, are you with Steve? And I said, no, he's at baseball practice. What can I help you with? And she said, have you not seen the news? I don't know, what can I do? What can I help you with? And she said, well, Steve's been shot.
We do have some breaking news for you right now at this hour, and we are just getting very, very scant details, but it appears that something has happened at a Congressional ball game.
Those shots were probably a second, maybe a second and a half apart. It was like bang, bang.
You know, to me it sounded like a tractor backfiring.
After the first shot hit the fence, I thought it was a construction accident. And I said, what the F was that? Trent was on third. Trent's the one that yelled,
Shooter, gun, get the heck out of here.
We made a decision that if this guy came around the first base side, that we would rush him. And somebody would win, somebody would lose.
Scalise is probably 10 feet to my left. The third bullet cracks in front of me. I see Steve's corkscrew into the ground.
I felt a pain in my left side, and then immediately my legs gave out.
Scalise dragged himself across the field, leaving a trail of blood.
It was surreal how I was cognizant of everything going on around me. You know, I heard the shootout.
An all-out gun battle as Capitol Hill police and Alexandria officers engaged a lone gunman.
And I'm going, he's right there, you know, telling him to get down because Bailey's still engaged and he's there. And about that time I hear a whoop and he hits the ground and starts whining. I going, it hurts. And of course I didn't have a whole lot of sympathy for him at that point.
I could definitely sense that my body was starting to shut down. And I remember as soon as I heard the word shooter down, members started coming to me.
I did go into military mode, waiting for the opportunity to get to him and to take care of him in the way that I knew how to do as a military doctor and a combat surgeon.
thank God Brad was there. Thank God Brad stayed that extra time during the practice, which he never did.
Once I knew I was getting taken to the hospital, it kind of started fading after that, and that was about the last thing I remember is the helicopter taking off. I sure don't remember arriving at the hospital.
When he arrived, he was in critical condition with an imminent risk of death.
From the roommate's perspective, Kevin Brady, John Chimkus, myself, we were trying to assess where was Steve, go to a hospital. We went to the wrong hospital. We were trying to see if we could get in to see him, get information.
I immediately called Brett's cell phone number to make sure he knew about it, and Brett was very brief with me. He just said, it's Steve, I'm on the way to the hospital.
I don't know what kind of time I made to get to the hospital. I'm sure I blew through a few red lights. And the only last thing I remember is pulling up to the hospital into like a loading area with my hazards on and just leaving my car right there.
I don't think people really realized how close he was to passing away.
Media and news had been, seemed to downplay.
In our minds are thinking, oh, he just got shot. We're gonna go to the hospital, and he's gonna be like, look, the Democrats didn't want me to play in the game.
When he left the trauma unit, he did not have a blood pressure that anybody could find.
When we walk into the hospital, we're like, oh, this is not good.
When this all happened, Paul Ryan went to the floor of the House of Representatives and he said,
An attack on one of us is an attack on all of us.
For the first couple of hours, Brett, Cedric, Richmond, and I were in the trauma bay area, just sort of awaiting additional information.
It wasn't until later in the afternoon that Dr. Savo was given permission to give me a health update, a medical update. And that's when he told me that, we're fighting to save his life and we have no idea if he'll make it.
Trump comes.
He and Melania both left the White House to come to the hospital to check on me.
Congressman Scalise is a friend. He's a patriot. And he's a fighter.
If you said at the end of the day we'd all be alive except the shooter, I don't think anybody would think that would be the case.
You know, the next day was a congressional baseball game.
Vice President Pence, President Trump, and Paul Ryan called and asked me if we should play, and I had the chance to say, absolutely, we have to play. We had a prayer service right at second base.
Steve wouldn't want us to sit at home tonight. He doesn't want us sitting at the holiday. He would want us in the stands wearing our Team Scalise t-shirts.
Tonight we're all Team Scalise.
In the days and weeks after,
Steve had 9 operations.
It was important to us that Dr. Sava address the press. We wanted him to sort of walk through what had happened and where we were.
The round fragmented and did substantial damage to bones, internal organs, and blood vessels.
I'm in the hospital for 3.5 months. It got pretty monotonous sometimes. To have Dave and Crystal come back in the hospital, and both of them were hit during the shootout.
We were all just so grateful to the Capitol Police, both of whom got hit.
We are forever grateful for the heroism of Special Agents Crystal Griner and David Bailey, who saved the lives of everyone at the baseball field that morning.
Had his Capitol Police not been there that day on that baseball field, he thinks a dozen members of Congress could be dead.
Steve's health got better, and then it was worse because there was an infection. Then it got better again, and as we kept seeing the end in sight, Steve was able to get more and more and more engaged.
We were meeting fairly regularly. He was calling a lot once he got his phone back. He liked to call, liked to be read in.
I didn't want to be a victim. I knew it was something I wanted to confront, and I wanted to get beyond it to then get on with living my life again.
There had never been a discussion about whether or not Steve was coming back to Congress. I think we all just kind of assumed it.
I know some people wondered, do you think you're going to want to go back to work? It was never a doubt. I wanted to go back to work.
At some point, he started doing practice rounds in an auditorium room, I think, at the hospital, because it had a sloped floor and it sort of felt like the House chamber.
I had only found out the night before that he was coming back.
The surprise of it was part of what the story was.
One reporter, I think from ABC, said, "So you excited?" And I said, oh, I think I know what's going to take place today.
All right, we do have some breaking news.
Steve Scalise, the majority whip out of Louisiana, shot on a baseball field more than 3 months ago, has returned to Capitol Hill.
Cheers and tears as Congressman Steve Scalise made a surprise homecoming to the Capitol.
On crutches, walking onto the House floor, a bipartisan standing ovation.
A lot of lawmakers are wondering what all the buzz is, and when they've been told that it's Scalise returning to the House chamber, I saw Congressman John Lewis, the civil rights icon, his face lit up.
The chair wishes to mark the return to the chamber of our dear friend and colleague from Louisiana, Mr. Steve Scalise.
You have no idea how great this feels to be back here at work in the people's house.
He would always say, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to be starting. At the beginning, it sort of felt more like a joke, and then he kept saying it over and over again.
To go back on the ball field and just put a glove in my hand and try to field a ball again, just to get the skill to be able to bend down and get a ball that's hit right to me was hard.
To see him out at second base to start the game was something that we all wanted to have happen.
I didn't want to go out on crutches, and so I asked David and Crystal if they would carry me out to second base.
There's been no greater play in all of congressional baseball. Steve Scalise is second base.
Congressman Ruiz takes the first pitch, hits it straight to Steve. Steve goes down on one knee.
I'm on my knees and I look up and there's the ball in my glove. And so I said, at this point, Raul's running down the first baseline. I said, I better try to make the throw.
The place just erupted.
I remember sitting in the stands and I text Brett and Lauren. I'm like, can I send this to ESPN? I know they don't do, you guys don't do politics, but this is above politics, this is sports.
I don't know where he got the energy for that. It was one of the greatest moments in sports I've ever seen.
Somebody came out that morning with the intention of killing us all because of our political beliefs.
The gunman has been identified as 66-year-old James Hodgkinson from Illinois. He was shot and killed by police. And authorities are now poring over his social media accounts, which are filled with posts attacking President Trump and Republicans, including Congressman Steve Scalise.
We knew we were targeted when we found out, as we got back to the Capitol, that the gunman asked Ron DeSantis and Jeff Duncan who we were, if we were Republicans or Democrats.
Right in front of my Tahoe, I encountered a gentleman.
Big fat guy, probably 5'8", 5'10".
And he said, excuse me, can you tell me who's practicing today, Republicans or Democrats.
Jeff said they're Republicans. The guy kind of turned around and started walking towards the field.
Somebody would take time and get up the following morning and say, I just think we'll go kill some people, and they'll go kill Republicans. It was in his pocket, kill Republicans. It was very political.
So the FBI came out and said this was suicide by cop, which was pretty appalling, because he asked if this was Republicans. He had been stalking us for 2 months. He had names of Republicans in his pocket.
For them to say anything other than it being an act of terrorism infuriated a lot of us.
I said, let me tell you, I'm a former prosecutor. I've done a lot of things. I'm a soldier. I've served in combat. And I said, that was not suicide by cop. He was still shooting when he went down. He had no intention of dying. His only intention was to slaughter Republicans.
For the FBI to have classified it as that, it's disturbing, it's offensive, and it's inaccurate.
They didn't want to say that somebody from the left tried to change the balance of power in the House of Representatives in one morning. They didn't want to say that, and that it was somebody from the left who was violent.
They want to talk about extremists and all those things, and this guy clearly was assassinating us for political purposes.
Nobody should accept political violence, and we should all speak out against it, whether it's at elected leaders, whether it's at judges, as we're still seeing to this day.
I will never forget June 14, 2017. Those are the experiences that mark you for life, and you can choose whether that marks you in a bad way or a good way.
Like, I'm lucky to be alive. God continues to perform miracles every day. I can walk and move around on my own so much better than a year ago, let alone 5 years ago. So I see the improvement. I still go play second base. I can bat too, but I'm gonna just keep working and doing the things I love doing.